There we go. We're on and we're live. And before we launch into this incredibly exciting topic, I'm excited about it, and I'll tell you why in a moment. If you're like me, you've come from a busy day. Barbara, it's the start of your day, right? But take a moment to go inward, maybe softening your gaze, even closing your eyes, and bringing your awareness to the center of your chest where your heart is beating. And notice your breath. I had to do a little bit of running around to find the best Wi-Fi spot in this hotel. And so I noticed that my heart rate was a bit high. Maybe you're feeling quite calm and relaxed. The breath is such a vital indicator of how we're feeling. And the topic today is going to help us to maximize our performance no matter what's going on around us, because our body can really be an important tool in the toolkit that helps us stay resilient and well and energized. So take a breath in, breathing a little bit deeper into your belly. What would it be like to use a little bit more of your lung capacity? And as you breathe out, can you breathe out any tension that might be around your jaw or your neck? Maybe let your shoulders drop a little bit towards the ground. And on your next inhale, imagine your spine or your posture going a little bit more upright. So I call this strong back. So as you inhale, lift up slightly, and keeping that posture, as you exhale, soft front. And you relax and try and, I noticed my jaw was quite tight there. Release tension in your front. So inhale, strong back, exhale, soft front. And do that 3 or 4 times at your own pace. Breathing in, keeping your posture upright. We're going to hear a lot about posture today and how important it is to have symmetry and balance. And as you exhale, soften any tension around your jaw, your forehead, your neck, your shoulders, maybe even your glutes, the muscles by your buttocks. We carry a lot of tension and stress there. And last breath in, strong back. And as you exhale, soft front. And if your eyes are closed, to gently open them, let the light back in and the screen. And look, here's Michael. Welcome. Welcome. Michael, where are you dialing in from? You're dialing in from home, I think, or your home office. We just did a check-in. Welcome. So I am delighted to introduce Darryl. And today is going to be quite a practical session, but as with every masterclass that I host, everything's an invitation. So there's something really deeply helpful if you actually practice things, because then you have that muscle memory. And also, if you have any questions after today, you can either contact me or I'll share Darryl's contact details. And why is this topic important? Because sitting is the new smoking. And even though we have this hybrid way of work and things have changed dramatically, a lot of us, I know myself, I'm spending even more time behind my screen and doing more online meetings. And when we combine sitting and screen time with stress and bad posture and lack of awareness, it's a recipe for disaster. We can have tension, muscle constriction, backache. And I knew that I wasn't doing things right. Claire and I would often compare different stretches and what we were doing. And then a client who I highly esteem told me about Darryl and said, I've been working with this guy and he's like solved all my issues. So I'm like, okay, let me meet this Darryl. And Darryl, I think it was in July that we had our first session. And I can't believe what your simple sessions or stretches have done for my mobility. I'm much more excited about exercises. And I realize now actually that what's more important is what we do throughout the day, not just the fact that we go for a walk or a run once a day. Yes, that's important. But today we're talking about exercise. Like, what are things you can do when you're in meetings, when you're sitting working, when you're answering countless emails, when you're driving. So on Monday, I had a 5.5-hour trip in my car. Darryl gave me a few exercises and there I was, scapular squeezing, tilting my pelvis, and I had no muscle ache. And I was actually quite energized when I got to my destination. Yeah. So yeah, Darryl is a human symmetry, postural alignment, movement specialist. He's also just a really cool guy, and he has a puppy. So if you hear barking, I'm guessing that's your dog. Yeah. But Darryl,
but it's food time now, so that should be quiet.
Okay. I think tell us a little bit about where your passion comes from, because all of us, I think on this call, I know many of you personally, and we're passionate about what we do. And I know you're very passionate about what you do. Where did that come from?
So when I was a young person, hello everyone, by the way, pleased to meet you all. I was very much into my sports, cricket in particular, tennis, and I got up to a level of almost playing for South Africa under 13 and under 17 in cricket. Through all the stress and lack of stretching and growing and all of the one-sided sport, which is, funny enough, asymmetrical, ended up causing a stress fracture in my lower back. It's got a very long name. It's called a spondylolisthesis. But anyway, I had the best physio, I had the best chiro, I had the best coaches, and somehow they got me almost better, but never enough to really perform at a high level. And I ended up having to give up on being a career sportsman. And then I moved to the UK and I met a few people and went on this, what took about 15-year journey, sort of trying to discover what happened in my body, what prevented me from doing what I thought was me. And eventually I got there through looking at lots of different methods, basic personal training, even, Reiki and all these kind of different things. And through the years, since about 95, but I was in the UK from 2002, I have started to get myself sorted to the level where I actually ran a few ultra marathons, and I now understand what makes my body become in pain, but also what I can do to get myself out of pain and performing properly, whether it's at a desk or driving a car, or whether it is if I want to go for a jog or a walk, or if I want to go and lift some weights or go and jump around in the waves. So that's been the main thing. And like I said, there's been a few different things that I've looked at and studied, but the passion was always to get the human body, my human body. And since I've started doing what I do, and my spine starts to tingle when I talk about it, because I've decided rather than being a career sportsman, I was supposed to help people and help people get out of pain, get them to be able to live a whole life and be able to throw their grandkids up into the air until they're 100 years old. So that's where it's led me. I now obviously see my own clients virtually and one-to-one. But so that's been my journey. But I like to be able to give that information over in less than 15 years, obviously, to my clients and the people I meet.
Well, you have about an hour today.
Okay. So I will cram it. I have summarized it quite nicely. Yeah.
Darryl, thank you. Did anybody else have a slight tingle at that vision of throwing grandchildren up in the air until the age of 100? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't even want children. that resonates with me. And I know, Michael, you definitely probably would like some grandchildren. So, yeah, and that's what this is about, is how can we stay flexible, strong, right through until we take our last breath. And that's what I've really respected about Darryl's work, is it's not about picking up dumbbells. Yeah. And I quite like that you don't call them dumbbells, you call them clever bells, because, they encourage exercise and movement. But it's not about going to the gym and doing heavy weights. In fact, as Darryl speaks, we'll hear about why that's not always the best approach. And it's more about being functional and doing movements that help your everyday life. Before we get into the topic, if you were to rate yourself, and if you're happy to pop this into the chat, what rating out of 10 would you give yourself in terms of how you feel when you're working behind your desk? So how flexible, and, Darryl spoke about being in pain. How would you rate yourself in terms of your desk fitness? So we've got Michael starting us off as 5, Claire at a 6, a 6.5, 5. How would you rate yourself? Okay, so we've got about a common, okay, we've got a little bit of a higher, that's great, because Fabrice, I know that you, in fact, Fabrice, if you can rename yourself, do you know how to do that? So that we don't call you Xperia? Can I rename you? I'll rename you, there you go. There we go, awesome. So Fabrice is at an 8, so you pulled up the average, great. So I'm hoping that by the time we wrap up today, you feel like you've got 1 or 2 things that you can do that can help you increase that score a little bit. So Darryl, are you good to, are you there? Okay, great.
So I'm sorry, I had a little bit of a wobbly bit of reception there, but I'm back now.
So I also had a wobbly because of course the hotel Wi-Fi went down at like 5 to 4, as you know. And you're in South Africa, so we understand. Can you start us off with the absolute basics that you've taught me?
Yeah. So I mean, basically, I come from that injury rehab side because I wanted to fix myself. So when I look at a new client, I always look at, are they injured or are they trying to obviously prevent an injury? Because so many people exercise and they put so much effort in, but they end up hurting themselves because they might be doing something slightly not right, or they might be doing something too much in a particular area, which wears and tears. So there's always injury rehab, injury prevention. And then from there, moving on to trying to optimize their function. And whether they are just wanting to live a nice pain-free life and go for a walk on the beach, or whether they want to play a sport, or whatever their functional needs are. And the aim of exercise should actually always be focusing on taking away barriers to self-healing. The body's always healing itself. But if you have misalignments, imbalances, stresses, whether they're chemical or physical or emotional and mental from work, what that does is it puts your body into a protective state and it doesn't actually heal. So exercise can actually be bad, and exercise itself causes damage in your body. It's then your job to eat well and sleep well, to recover, and the recovery process is actually what makes you stronger because of the recovery from the exercise damage you did to yourself. So yes, rehab, optimize function, take away the barriers to self-healing. When I talk about function, you can't go straight into function because lots of us are not functioning perfectly. We do have a human blueprint, which is basically a structural positioning, bones, joints, muscles, and how we're actually supposed to be set up statically. So we look at the structure first. Are you in a straight line from the side? Are your shoulders level? Are your hips level? Are they twisted? Could they be twisted like that? Elevated? Anything like that? If you've got something like that, and unfortunately with today's asymmetrical lifestyle, driving with one leg, playing tennis and squash and throwing a ball with one arm, even writing and using one hand for your mouse, that causes asymmetries and differences in muscle tension throughout your body. And that pulls joints out of position and causes little areas of stress. So you can't move very functionally or without potential injury unless you sort out the static alignment. So I like to use a little metaphor because people learn nicely from metaphors, and we probably all have a car. And we probably all have car tires and car alignment and car ball bearings and all that kind of stuff. I'll always say to anyone who I describe this to, you first have to realign your car's wheels before you can learn to drive your car with straight wheels, because you've probably been driving it with skew wheels for a while, which has been causing damage. Then once you've learned to drive it with straighter and aligned wheels, only then can you learn to race your car. And lots of us like to go to the gym and race our car. And we've got 45 minutes and we're trying to burn as many calories as possible, or we're trying to lift some weights because we want a little bit more muscle there, or whatever it is. So that's the whole, take away those barriers to self-healing, take away the need for the body to compensate and potential injury from exercise. Once you've improved the structure, you can then improve the function. Okay, so that's kind of how this sort of spectrum works. Lots of people get taught to go and train muscles at the gym because that's how personal trainers and bodybuilders and even weight loss and those kind of people, they teach exercise where you're taught to focus on a muscle. First of all, you cannot actually physically isolate a muscle. It's physically impossible. You can train an area, but then we got a bit cleverer and we started looking into a thing called biomechanics, which is just human mechanics and how the body is supposed to function, joint by joint, and the muscles that attach. So we started thinking we were clever, and we went and moved and we started training joints. And then the joints move and the muscles around them react. That's great. So we're getting better. And then after that, someone else discovered that we have this stuff that weaves through our body. It's made of little strands of calcium. It's called fascia. If you've ever pulled back a chicken breast skin, there's that fuzzy stuff underneath. Basically, fascia runs head to toe. It's like a bag that's going all the way around your body and it's tied up above your head. It's connective tissue, and it links your body up. It does things like hold up your lungs, hold up your heart. It wraps around your brain and keeps your cerebrospinal fluid in there, which keeps infection out. If you ever have a headache, by the way, it's not your brain that's sore, it's the fascia that wraps over your head, which is painful. Fascia is quite full of nerves. But the thing we look at fascia for in exercise is how fascia connects up muscles and joints and bones, because it weaves through all the muscles. It's the thing that separates the little muscle fibers and the separate muscles, and it actually goes into the bone. So we can think about it as like train tracks, where you've got the train track being the muscle, where it links to the bone, that's the train station. But there's a whole train line which goes from head to toe, all these different lines that move through your body, and they are created by your general movements, your day-to-day movement patterns. And your body lays down this fascia to support your body and support and help your muscles and joints with your most regular movements. Those are called fundamental movements, by the way. We're going to be talking about them a little bit. I think I've gotten quite deep and quite in depth already. So whether you're starting or ending your business day, let's play a little bit of exercise fun just to get your blood flowing for the next section of talking deep about exercise.
Can I just say something? Exercise
do, yeah?
fun. How does
Exercise
that feel
fun?
for you? Daryl just
me?
said, oh, exercise fun in the same sentence.
Absolutely.
No, which is great.
Yeah.
But I think many of us, we tend to think of exercise as not fun, maybe.
Yes.
So yeah, I like that Daryl always says you've got to enjoy it, you know?
Absolutely.
And I believe 100%. In that.
Yeah, yeah. So is everyone that would like to take part able to stand up? Yeah, so if you want to take part, also, obviously, if you want to try this at a different point in time, you can go through the recording or what have you. So if you can just stand up for me and close your eyes and just sort of start to sense how you're standing. And then I want you to be aware of your balance, so your load bearing. Are you loading your legs equally? Does it feel like you might be favoring one? Are you balanced between the front and the back of your foot? So big toe ball joint compared to your heel. Does your left and right foot feel different? Also, are you swaying slightly? Do you feel free and sort of tension free in your neck and shoulders? You know, just be aware of how you feel. Okay. You can be aware of the tension in your thighs as well. Is one thigh sort of squeezing harder or anything like that? Okay. Once you've sort of assessed yourself, we're going to do a couple of little exercises. So I'm going to describe them. I'm quite a good verbal cue man when it comes to exercise. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to change your hand position to this kind of position. So we've got the first two knuckles bent, but not your whole fist, okay? And then your thumb up.
And Daryl, just to check, if somebody's not standing, can they still do the exercise?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, if you'd like to do it sitting, because that is the whole idea, you can do it sitting. But when you're sitting, what you have to do is you have to have your feet parallel to each other, 5 centimeters apart. Your knees also 5 centimeters apart, so that your legs are parallel to each other. I want you to sit half off the chair and also roll your pelvis forward so that you've hollowed your back out. And that's how you perform the same thing sitting. We're going to talk about sitting exercises also throughout the session. It's just a bit more of a a wow if you do the standing test, but we can also discuss the sitting exercises. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to stick your arm out to your side. I'll just step back here, arm out to your side with that hand position that I showed you. Okay. And you're going to stand with your arms out to your side. I want you to turn the arms out wide, like you're reaching, with your thumbs facing forward. I want you to get your feet a little bit turned in so that your big toes are almost touching. Okay. And they must be also symmetrically turned in. Then I want you to squeeze your thighs and hold. So it's like you're squeezing your thighs. You should feel like your knees are straightening. And then I'll just show you from the side here. You're going to circle your arms forward like that. While you're doing that, I want you to squeeze your shoulder blades back and down together and just keep going. So it's a little bit of a fast circle there. You can see Celine's doing it beautifully. Shoulders back and down, weird hand position, thighs tight, feet turned in. And we'll do about 20 more there. I'll kind of count Celine's. I think she's definitely my exercise model for when I have a very famous website, thanks to her as well. Okay, then you can just relax there. So you're now going to take your forward thumb position. You're going to turn them backwards. So the thumbs are facing behind you, arms straight again. Thumbs facing behind you. Squeeze your thighs, double check your foot position, shoulders back and down together. And now you're going to circle backwards. Yes, very, very good. So feet slightly turned in, thighs tight, shoulders back and down, which should make your chest bone lift up. You might be feeling that the front of your shoulders stretching. If you're doing this seated, make sure you do have your pelvis tilted forwards and that back hollowed out. And then let's go for last 10. Good, and just relax. Okay, so the next one, again, you can do standing or sitting. You're going to have the same hand position, okay? You're going to put your knuckles on your temples with your thumbs facing down. Again, make sure those feet are slightly turned in. So your big toes are almost touching, and make sure that your feet are symmetrically turned in. It's very important. If you don't practice exercise with perfect position, you don't promote symmetry, and therefore you won't get the perfect result, okay? In that position, standing or sitting now, you're going to keep your wrists straight and your knuckles on your temples and curl your elbows around. Try to touch them in front of you, squeeze there, and then curl them back and push them as far back as you can. And then repeat. Bring in, squeeze together, bring back and push far back. You guys carry on. I'm going to explain what's happening here. So we've got thighs tight as well. I forgot to mention that. Thighs tight. With your feet turned in and your thighs tight, you are trying to change your foot position slightly, which changes your thigh position, your leg position, which changes the stability in your hip muscles or your hip stabilizers. What that does is, because your foot position is supposed to be slightly pigeon-toed, according to the human blueprint, it just engages all the muscles from your arch all the way up the spiraling muscles to your hip. What then happens with your elbow movements is that we are causing your shoulder joints to move into quite an extreme position forwards and backwards, basically also promoting symmetry. Okay, I think I've just lost a little bit of reception here. Let me just move so we can get it back. Are you guys still there? There we go. I'm not sorry, guys. I think I might have lost you there. Hello. Sorry, I'm just moving around because I think I might have lost reception. Am I back? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but Celine, we've lost Celine.
We've lost Celine, yeah. Sorry, I've moved rooms because I don't know what's happening to my reception there. Apologies for that. I hope she'll call back in a sec.
Jen will
Hi.
have to be your new fitness model now.
Hello. So, oh, there you go. So
By
I'm
the
not
way,
sure who
when
lost.
I leave the meeting, it doesn't close the whole Zoom thing, does it?
No.
No. Oh, thank goodness.
I was meeting the lovely people on the other end there while you were gone. Yes. So sorry about that. I'm not sure whose internet went there. It might have been mine. So that was the second one. The last exercise we're going to do, again, you can do it sitting. Again, standing up, I think it's a little bit better. But then obviously, if you are stuck at the desk, it's better to do something great at the desk than go, oh, well, I can't do the standing, so I'm not going to do anything. Okay. So standing or sitting, I've described to you the seated position. I've described to you the standing position, feet slightly turned in. I want you to squeeze those quads again. This time you're going to interlace your fingers and you're going to push your palms up to the ceiling. You're going to squeeze your shoulder blades back and down together, and then you're going to look up at your hands and you're going to hold that there. So I will remind you again, feet turned in, thighs tight, fingers interlaced, palms pushed up towards the ceiling, shoulders pulled back and down, looking up at your hands. And we're going to hold that for another 30 seconds or so. Some of the postural stuff that we do for a long time. And the main reason for that is that you need postural muscles to have endurance. That's the main thing. It's not about a powerful contraction and then a time to rest. Your postural, your deep muscles, your stabilizing muscles, they need to be on 100% of the time because they hold your body together. Your prime movers are the ones that can rest. And they're the ones that if you train too hard, they take over from your postural muscles and they start to change how we move around. And that's where lots of people's injuries come from, unfortunately. So it's about back to basics. Good. So that was that. We can all relax again. If you are standing, guys, please stand up again if you've sat down. And just again, center yourself, feel your center of gravity. Compare left to right leg. Compare front to back lean. Are you stable? Are you feeling more tense, less tense, the same tension that you had before? And hopefully some of you will feel a bit of a change. It's obviously a little bit difficult with a group and I can't see exactly what everyone's doing because I can't coach you all individually, but hopefully something nice happened there.
Yeah, Darryl, I
so,
must say, did anybody
yeah.
notice a difference? Because in the beginning, I was leaning more to the left and much more forward. I think that's because of the pace of the afternoon. And now when I just did it, it felt like I was even on both left and right.
Yeah, that's good. Good news.
Can I ask a question? Because I know how important it is, for me at least, to know why something is good for me. So does anybody else want to know why that particular hand hold? Because I found that fascinating. Yeah.
So basically the muscles that go through your forearm, the ones that make your wrist do that, or your flexors, the ones that do that, or your extensors, they go through your hand and they attach on your second metacarpal, which is not the tip of your finger, it's the bone just below that. So if you make a fist, you are breaking the fascial chain and the muscle chain. If you make one less than a fist, like I showed you, because it's bending the knuckle where those muscles all attach, it completes the muscle chain all the way to your hand. Okay, so it's about trying to get the lines of fascial pull, that what I mentioned earlier, those calcium strands of fibers that run through your body. It's about stimulating them and pulling on them equally to try and make them become more symmetrical and more balanced. So that was a very, very good question there, Celine. You obviously listen to what I say to you.
And then I don't know how anybody else felt with that exercise, but when I first did that with Darryl, I was surprised at how few I could do and how tired my upper body became. So I think that, like, when you do exercises with the right form, like, you don't need to be doing a lot. And I've been doing those particular exercises about 3 times a week over a month. And I can't believe how now my elbows can touch, whereas before they couldn't. I was very tight. I saw you also, Michael. You're like, what do you mean?
Yeah, so it's tension, it's shoulder tension. And it's one of the nicest exercises. It's called a sitting or a standing elbow curl. And it's very basic, but what it does is it releases the tension that you build up on your shoulders, because we're stuck on a keyboard. Like I said, we call them desk jockeys. I do it myself as well, and I'm sure, Celine, you do tons of it, because you're always doing big meetings like this. But you build up this tension around that area, which then passes the tension on up to your smaller muscles in your neck. And that tension pulls on the fascia, which wraps over your head. And that's where headaches come from, even affecting your vision, because you've got so many nerves and things that cross through and around your neck. So you need to keep it up, sort of movable and flexible. And that's one of the good ones to do it that way at the desk as well. So yes, I think while we're chatting about all of this, you did the whole M&M thing the other day, which I thought was brilliant, Celine. The one thing we were talking about there was the brain, and how the brain and the nervous system gets involved in exercise. And something that people have been studying a lot these days is a thing that they've named neuroplasticity. And I mean, I'll even read you the internet definition, which is beautifully self-explanatory. It's the brain's ability to modify, change, and adapt, both structurally and functionally. So I've mentioned structure and function already, throughout your life and in response to experience. So experience would be where we exercise, because that experience that you're giving your body, your brain and nervous system can adapt positively or negatively to. So doing an exercise, putting effort in, but you aren't quite doing it perfectly well, or you're using maybe a machine, which is not wrong, but the machine might do some of your stabilizing. It can be a good or a bad experience for your body. And we're trying to look at the way the body works to try and improve our ability to give the body good experiences for that neuroplastic brain that you've got and nervous system. So it's getting a lot more advanced these days. It's not just lifting some things to get some strength and look a certain way, you know. When it comes to exercise and the version of neuroplasticity, I call it neuromuscular reintegration, because as a society and as a species, we've become very one-sided. We've spent too much time sitting down. When you're sitting down, your hamstrings, the back of the thigh tightens, your hip flexors, the front of your hip tightens, your trapezius, the muscles up here that hold onto your head and shoulders, they tighten. You become imbalanced. You drive your car where you're using your right foot to accelerate and your left foot relaxes. So now you're working your one hip stabilizer, not the other side. That can cause your hip to twist. All of these things cause muscular imbalances, which cause asymmetries, which cause your body to be in a state of stress. So by understanding that we need to reintegrate certain things back into our body because of the human lifestyle that we've created, and back problems and neck problems and surgeries and all these things are really on the up and up to a level where it's quite scary. They say something like 75% of the world will experience back pain in their life now. And so, you know, what are we doing wrong? It's obviously not working. So that neuromuscular reintegration is moving, teaching your body to have a better structure through good, regular exercise choices, following certain principles, which we are already talking about and sort of will talk about more. And then when you've improved that structure, whether it's as simple as you doing your standing balance test or feeling if a muscle's tighter on the one side, and then if it is, correcting it through actually stretching it or strengthening it. Once you've got the improved structure, you can then improve the function. And if you improve the function of the body with better structure and the functional exercise you do look and smell like the movements that you do day to day, your body will hold that change forever. But it's a constant process of realigning, doing the exercises that look like day-to-day movements, keeping your body keeping exercise in the forefront of your body and your brain, not by doing massive sessions, but by doing little bits of exercise regularly, whether it's one exercise an hour, whether it's one exercise a day to start. But the things that we do most frequently are the things that your body will adapt to the most. So we've got guys going to the gym or going for a long run 2 or 3 times a week. It's 40–50% of your week. If you do something like 2 exercises twice a day, 7 days a week, now your body's experiencing these exercises 14 times a week. It's going to listen. It's going to listen. So if you then build up on those 14 times a week with one more exercise, and you slowly build this amazing habit of doing things day to day, but also that don't actually eat too much time out of your day, and you can do it at your desk, or you can do in your car, or I used to joke with my UK clients, you can do a standing gluteal contraction while you're in the queue at Waitrose. People might think you're weird or you look funny, but you know that if you do these every day, it's going to stop or at least hold back the frequency of your back pain. It's going to make you feel more energetic because when you're walking, your muscles are more engaged. So trying to kind of weave it into your lifestyle. Now, I've spoken about the dynamic exercises that look like how you move around, etc., etc. It's kind of a big jump. I speak about a spectrum where you start with static, one little muscle. So I said you can't isolate, but you can sort of isolate an area. So to start with a very low stress focus on the exercise, because your body might not be succeeding on bigger exercises, you scale down. I call it local static. So we do little contractions, little stretches locally. And then you move on to a sort of dynamic, localized area. Then we move on to sort of more dynamic movements, ultimately going along this gentle increase in, I also call it the wattage or the electricity, or how much the body actually works, increases slowly, but only at a pace that your body can hold this change or the changes at. You get to those dynamic global movements where you're moving your whole body, maintaining the improved balance from step 1. And that's when you start to do your fundamental movements. Obviously, it's difficult to do fundamental movements at the desk, but you can do something as simple as a little rotation. And rotation is one of your, or twisting is one of your 8 fundamental movements. So you can. Okay, so very important. But the main thing is that you must never train over your threshold. So you might get really excited about exercise and you want to push slightly harder, and so on the yoga channel or so at the HIIT class or whatever goes, come on, last 5, and you're knackered. And now all of a sudden you're training above your threshold. What that does is it might feel good, but what it might do is it might also teach you bad habits. It might teach your body how to move impurely. You might lose that improved balance that I've been talking about, that improved symmetry. So very important principle, the threshold. Don't go above your threshold. Do you want to say
Darryl?
something, Celine?
Yeah,
Yes.
Thank you. I was just going to ask you. Well, I had a question, but Michael also has a question, and Michael's question is good. When do you know what your threshold is?
Yes. Thank you very much, Michael. That is actually a very good question. Got me thinking. So first of all, don't look in the mirror at the gym because you're trying to see what you look like after your exercise. Then you're there for the wrong reason. You must be watching yourself in the mirror while you're exercising.
And if you're not going to the gym, Michael, are you going to the gym? Let's say you're not going to the gym and there's no mirrors.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So then, I mean, you can actually look down. You need to be aware of your symmetry. So for instance, like I mentioned earlier, the foot position. If you have straight feet, your feet must be straight. You mustn't have one that sneaks out slightly, because lots of us have got one tight hip. So be aware of your position. Be aware of your starting position, because if you start to exercise in a bad starting position, that's already above your threshold, because your right and left side and your front and back are experiencing different versions of the same exercise. The whole idea is that we are supposed to be symmetrical bipeds. Our lifestyle has pulled us away from symmetry. We've become tight on the one side, weak on the other side. That's where the pain comes from, okay? Then you're spending too much time at your desk. So that is very, very important. Then once you've got your setup right, the next step is to be aware of how you're performing the exercise. You should always move smoothly, and there should always be a smooth transition. So all non-impact injuries come from an unsmooth transitional zone. So where we start to change direction, i.e. just say you're doing a bicep curl, there you go, now you change directions. That's the change of direction is your transitional zone. That's where, if you aren't smooth, you start to tear little muscle fibers more than they're supposed to. They do usually tear slightly when you exercise, but then you repair them. But the wear and tear can start building up if you aren't smooth and slightly controlled. So smoothness is very important. Are you maybe cardiovascularly, you can go up to your threshold, but I wouldn't spend too much time up there. So going up to your threshold, coming back down. Also, don't want to stress our heart out too much, because that's not a good thing. You don't want to add too many stresses to your body. So let me think what we've got. We've got symmetry, we've got setup, we've got smoothness of movement. Yes.
And Barbara made a comment, like getting out of the car.
Mm-hmm.
Barbara, do you mean, I think that's a great example of how you use different exercises, but I'm not sure exactly what your question is. Or if you have a question, or if you were just saying that that's an example of a functional movement. And
Sorry.
then Darryl, once we, I see Barbara's typing.
Yes.
I also wanted to ask you if you're happy to share what the 8 fundamental movements are.
Yeah, 100%. So I've got a lot of stuff, notes down. These come from different areas, so I can compile something which I can share with everyone. I do like creating little documents. I was asked if it was on a PDF to share. But the 8 fundamental movements are, everyone listening? Lunge, squat, unfortunately, but they are the only and the best leg movements. Lunge, squat, pull, push, twist, reach, and gait, which is walking and running biomechanics. That's all you can ever do. There's nothing else. Twist. I'm just watching what you're writing there. Twist. Lunge, squat, pull, push, lift, twist, reach. Gait, G-A-I-T. Lift, twist.
And reach.
Yeah, reach, that's the one. So for instance, if you pick up a sock in the morning, it involves a squat to get your legs down, to bend your legs, a reach with your hand, a pull to lift the sock, and the other end of the squat to stand up. So you've got 3 fundamental movements there. If you are doing a quick pickup while you're walking, you've got the squat or lunge, you've got the reach, you've got the pull, and you're doing it during a gait pattern. And what makes gait so exciting is that it's how your body connects from upper to lower body. It crosses over. Your right arm works with your left leg. That's called contralateral movement. That's looking quite a bit further into sort of more dynamic exercise, standing exercise, doing exercises with this improved balance to improve your ability to walk and run around with an improved situation. And again, you can do exercises that look and smell exactly like bits of gait and the whole of gait, and how gait and walking and running, which is obviously very important these days, even though I heard a fact a while ago. In the UK, which is where the fact was about, your average person never walks further than 50 meters away from his or her car. That's quite scary. So this is what cars and desks and everything being so convenient has done to us a little bit, even though we have left it as well.
Thank you, Darryl. And just before you go on, I know, Barbara, I think you were asking if you can get injured by getting out of a car because you're changing direction. I imagine, well, not because of there's not a very fast transition there. So, I think the injury would come from.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
Yeah, you can. I mean, it's not about that one time that you get out the car. and go a little bit faster because you're in a hurry. It's about, you've got this stress, you've got a bucket of stresses, and your bucket can handle so many stresses. And whether it's emotional, chemical, or physical stress, I'm sure Celine talks about this to you guys a lot because it's important, is anything can make it overflow. But when we're talking about a particular muscle fiber or a disc in your back or something like that, every injury has its first day, but hardly ever do they give you symptoms initially. It's about this weak spot or this weak area of weakness where every time you do the same type of movement, it gets a little bit more worn and torn, and there's initially no symptoms. That's the stage of health or ill health or disease or dis-ease called asymptomatic pathology. We all, lots of us, live in asymptomatic pathology because we don't have symptoms and then don't know we have to do something about it. So what happens then is eventually that little area of wear and tear or that weak spot, it becomes too much for it. And that last little slip, oh, I hurt my back, but I was only getting out of the car. It's not just that you got out the car. It's that there's something that's been happening in the background for, it could be for years. So it's about becoming aware of the structure and the function of the body, the posture, and how we move naturally to try and get ahead of those injuries, to train yourself to not have to go through those cycles of re-injury, which we all seem to be going through in our lives. And if you look at the structure and then you improve your function and do what I'm talking about, which is obviously not easy to just do it because there's a lot, like I say, there's 15 years worth of research in my mind. But if you look at the structure and you start becoming aware of your symmetry and more aware of your body and smoothness of movement and ultimately whole body exercises that look like how you move, including a squat where you get out of the car, which is what it is, a squat or a part lunge or a split squat or what have you. If you've practiced that in the gym with a bit of a conscious involvement where you've practiced perfectly, not above your threshold, not with too much weight, not so many repetitions that you're collapsing, with good form, then when you come to get out the car, that wearing and tearing is going to just be the normal amount. It's not going to accumulate and it's not going to ultimately end up in an injury.
Thank you. And I can't help but think when you share that and you share those 8 fundamental movements, like we're not doing any of those when we're sitting behind our screens. We're not lunging, we're not squatting, we're not pulling, we're not pushing, we're not twisting, we're not lifting, we're not gating, we're not reaching.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you can reach from the desk. Obviously, it looks a bit weird in the office place, but not all of us are in an office at the moment. But we can do twisting exercises at the desk. We can do, exercises.
Can we do one or two now? Can we do
Absolutely.
one or two now with you? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So the main thing with exercises at your desk is that you focus on your main joints, which are the main functional joints are your foot and ankle, your hip, pelvis, and your thoracic spine, which is that's part of your upper spine attached to your ribs. That's the one where you twist. So the best one for this part of your spine, the thoracic spine, is called a sitting chair twist. But you have to get yourself into that symmetry sitting position again. So feet about a fist or 5 centimeters apart, parallel to each other. The knees the same distance apart. Your knees must be bent at 90 degrees so that your ankles are below your knees. So if you drop the coin from your knee, it'll drop onto your ankle. Then you sit half off the chair, so you're not using your lumbar support. You then roll your hips forward like you're trying to lift your tailbone up. And what that does is it should hollow your back out. You should also feel that your shoulders now naturally roll back. And how you can test that, if you tuck under or hide your tailbone away or roll backwards, you should feel your lower back flexing or pushing into the back of the chair. Can you feel how your shoulders and the head come forward? Okay, so very important lesson. How you sit upright is not in your back, shoulders, neck. It's actually in your pelvis. So if you roll your hips forward, your shoulders should roll back. Now you're sitting upright naturally without having to actually sort of stress out your upper back muscles and all these muscles here that also get used, unfortunately, when we stress breathe. So there's all of the upper respiratory muscles. So we're trying to relax up top here, okay? So you've got your sitting right. You've got your feet, your knees, your hips tilted forwards, Shoulders are rolled back and down. What you can do now is you can take your right hand and put it on the outside of your left knee. Okay, right hand outside. Your left hand, you're going to reach around and try and grab the top of the chair. Okay, then you're going to use your left hand on the chair and your right hand on your knee to push and pull and twist your spine around to the left as far as you can. So you should be feeling that your arms are pushing your spine in the same direction. And also look to the left as far as you can. Keep the pelvis rolled forwards. And then you'd hold that for about a minute or so. We don't have to hold it for a full minute today. But like I said to you before, your postural muscles need endurance. So they need to be stretched and strengthened in long periods of time. And then you can come out of that. And then to do the other side, you do left hand on the outside of right knee. Right hand to the top of the chair. Tilt your pelvis forward, sit up nice and tall, look to the right, and use your arms to twist yourself around as far to the right as you can. And the reason why you're tilting your pelvis forward is that if you allow your spine to collapse, you get less rotation, because the range of motion that each vertebral joint is allowed, some of it is used up by what's called spinal flexion, which is like that forward bend. Okay, so if you're doing any postural exercise, you have to sit upright and get your spine into what is actually neutral. Only then can you increase the range of motion, because your body's allowed full rotation. Okay, so that's a sitting chair twist. What you can also do, if you want to look at, say, for instance, glutes, which is quite a tight area, most of us. Well, actually, guys are more than girls, but you might have one tight glute more than the other, because we might, especially in the States or the UK, when we have an automatic car, you don't even have a clutch to use your left leg. So you're using your right hip more than your left hip. It's like sending your right hip to the gym and your left hip stays at home. Obviously, it's going to create asymmetries. So same sitting position, but you're going to pull your right leg up. So you put your right ankle on top of your left knee. Okay, so you're kind of sitting cross-legged, but your ankle's on your knee. Then you're going to tilt your pelvis forward and lift your spine up. And then using your hip muscles, push your right knee down towards the floor. And you should feel that stretch in your hip. Yeah, glutes. It might be glutes. It might be deeper. It might even be the hip joint socket. It might be the tendons and ligaments around there. And then you keep up tall. You keep pushing that knee down. And you could also hold that for about a minute. And then you'd obviously change sides. But now this time, when we change sides, so now put your right leg down, put your left ankle onto your right knee, okay? And then sit up tall, push your left knee down towards the floor using your hip muscles, not your hand. Does it feel like one of your stretches is tighter than the other? So that's an example of how you can test your own symmetry by doing stretches in your main joint areas. So obviously I might not be able to come and follow you around and watch everything you do. So the best thing you can learn from me today is, how can I sort of be more aware of what I'm doing? And learning that every exercise or stretch is actually a test. If you get a positive test result, i.e. the one side's tighter than the other, you now need to do that stretch to fix it. But the nice thing is, and it's nice and symmetrical, excuse the bad pun, the test is also the fix or the exercise. So it's quite nice and simple. But that's two. What else have we got? We can do a nice pelvic tilt. So again, get your feet 5 centimeters apart, parallel, knees the same distance apart, ankles below knees. This time you're going to put your palms up on your lap. And the reason why palms up on your lap is good is because that gets your shoulder into a nice open position. If you put your palms down, do you feel how your shoulder joints kind of round forward? So palms up is very, very good. Then you're going to roll your pelvis backwards and forwards. Excuse my squeaky chair. Backwards and forwards. You're not forcing it. You're just trying to roll to the end of range, but obviously not too much, especially as I said, if you're doing this in a car, be very, very careful, because if you're doing too much movement, you're going to move your eyes around. We don't want you having any car accidents. So obviously at your desk, it's a bit different. So rolling backwards, which is stimulated by your glutes, rolling forwards, which is stimulated by your hip flexors, which are in front of your hip. Those are your two main hip stabilizers. If they're imbalanced, your pelvis twists. Or if you do stuff like this, those muscles become more balanced. That will untwist your pelvis. The other nice thing about that exercise is it actually pumps your lumbar discs. The discs between your vertebral joints in your lower back, they need movement, because they can only be refreshed with water, so hydration and lymphatic nutrients in your lymphatic system through movement. They need to be squashed and relaxed. So you have to move. That's actually a biological pump. So this is a biological pump, which is keeping your discs healthy, compared to if you just slumped in your chair all day and the same pressure remained on those discs all day. Eventually the fluid becomes redundant. Nothing in there is good for the disc until you move. When it gets refreshed, that disc gets revitalized nutritionally, hydrationally, and all that kind of stuff. So there are 3 good examples of exercise you can do at your desk, but vitally important. How you
Thank you, Darryl.
How you do them, very, very important.
Can I just say how I'm very surprised at how the pelvis impacts the thoracic spine. I can't say that word.
Yeah.
But like we always think to sit upright is about your shoulders. I never actually thought it's not. It's about your pelvis. That's
100%.
astonishing for me.
Yeah,
and
that's why that's why you start with all postural focused exercise. You start with the pelvis, because the pelvis is where the spine stacks on top. The shoulder then attaches, the shoulder blade then attaches, then the shoulder and arm attach, or your leg, your thigh, your upper thigh and your shin go down to your foot. It all starts from your hips and go up or down the chain. If your hips are out of place, your spine cannot be in a good position. Okay, an example, if your right hip is elevated, i.e. lifted compared to your left, maybe you've got a sore knee from playing football and, you know, with your kid or whatever, you're avoiding your one side, so you kind of subconsciously elevate. That's actually called an antalgic posture. It's a pain avoiding posture, which is actually the main reason why we move out of symmetry when our body starts to wear and tear. And then you get more layers of compensation, because if you avoid an area because it's sore, you are automatically re-stressing or even more stressing another area. That's why the symmetry is so important. But you've got a sore knee, your elevated right hip is there. Your primary defense mechanism as a human being is to keep your eyes level. You cannot get around it. Subconsciously, your body will not let you go around with your head tilted. Your head stays eyes level. But now if your hips, which are supposed to be symmetrical and flat or in a nice horizontal line, if the one lifts, what has your spine got to do to keep your head upright? It has to side bend. And that is where something like scoliosis comes from. So you can try and manipulate the spine, retrain the spine as much as you want, until you actually go after the hip, which is the root cause. You will not get rid of the symptom, which is the skew spine and the pain related to that. So that's probably an example of people that might have one sore shoulder area, the one side, that shoulder, that's trapezius. So it's very, very important to look at how posture and how your body stacks. And even when you're standing, if your hips roll forward too much because you've got tight anterior or tight front hips, hip flexors, it's going to shift your body weight forward. But your body's going to self-adjust by pushing your upper spine backwards to readjust your weight distribution, which makes your head and shoulders go forward. That's going to cause forward head and shoulders, neck problems, etc., etc. If your pelvis tilts too far backwards, i.e. your glutes kick in, or you're hiding your tailbone for whatever reason, or you could have tight hamstrings because they pull down the back of your pelvis, that shifts your weight backwards. And because of good old gravity that likes to pull straight down, you don't want to fall backwards. So as a compensation to that, you put your head and shoulders forward to rebalance your alignment or rebalance your weight distribution. Again, forward head, forward shoulders, tight neck, tight spine, etc. So it is very, very important to look for your posture and your pelvis initially.
Thank you, Darryl. Thank you. And Stephanie sadly was kicked out of her office, but she
Oh
did.
dear.
She did mention that she has sciatica.
Sciatica, yeah. So that's
Sciatica.
Yeah. That's to do with deep muscles in the pelvis that put pressure onto the sciatic nerve, which runs down in the back of the inside of your thigh. It's actually the biggest nerve you have. And actually the gluteal stretch we just did now would help. But ultimately, it's dominance from the back of the hip and coupled with potential weakness or sleepiness, I like to say, because it's not weakness because you can fix it, in the front of the same hip, which makes the back of the hip tight. And you've got this really deep muscle, which is also an external rotator like a glute. It's called piriformis, and it sits right on top of the sciatic nerve. So if the back of your hip on one side is dominant, or even both sides, it puts direct pressure on that nerve. So until you actually release those muscles off, but then also strengthen the opposite side to keep the tension change there. Otherwise, it's going to just slip back to how it was, because people that have sciatica and issues like that, it's been building up for a long time. So you've got to kind of stretch and also strengthen the opposite to maintain the change. Yeah.
So the good news is even something like sciatica, with the right stretching and correction and strengthening, you can improve it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of my favorite tricks with new patients and new clients is to ask them, are you in pain? Obviously, I don't want them to be in pain, but they usually come to me in pain because they've possibly not succeeded elsewhere. And I say to them, what's your pain on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most pain you can experience and 0 being none. 7, 8, 9, whatever. I then specifically try and do exercises to start to reduce that pain. Pain is a very, very big motivator. And if you can link the reduction of your pain levels to the correct exercises, you're on the right path. That's an instant motivator. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we've got probably another 10 minutes or so before I'd like to open up for any questions, and then we can do a wrap up. Yeah. So Darryl, I mean, I can listen to you forever. I don't know about anybody else.
Well, I'll put myself to sleep.
Sleepiness is not a weakness. I like that.
Exactly. Well
Sleepiness,
said.
not weakness. Yeah.
Well quoted. Yes. So do we have some questions?
Yeah, actually, are there any questions now? Because I have a question, but I don't want to take over the show, Feel free to pop into the chat or unmute if you'd like to.
Yeah.
Darryl, the question I was going to ask was when I did the video on the M&Ms about how movement can help with your mind. So you've definitely made that link in terms of neuroplasticity. And we know that the brain works better when we incorporate movement. I don't know if anybody's had the feeling where you're stuck on an issue or you're feeling stressed, you leave your desk, you go make a cup of tea, and you come up with a solution, and you come back and you're like, I'm so glad I didn't hit send on that email. Let me say it a different way. So movement helps your brain, but movement also helps mitochondria. So mitochondria are the little energy factories in each of our cells. Do you want to maybe, because that can help with weight loss, fat burning, energy.
100%.
Want to chat a bit about that? And are there any particular exercises that we could do at our desk to help that?
Yeah. So, I mean, basically your mitochondria, you can have more, you can have less. In every little cell, there's a bunch of mitochondria. They're the things that change ATP into glucose and sort of recycle. They make the power. They give you the shock of fuel that gives you that muscle cell the ability to contract and relax. And so those little mitochondria are very important when it comes to your energy levels. The other thing is that they also determine how many calories your body needs just to sustain life, which is called resting metabolic rate, RMR. So how many calories you burn at rest. If you didn't get up, if you didn't go for a jog, if you didn't get stressed at work, just to sit there as a unit. How many calories does your body burn per day? And they say, like most people, average between sort of 750 to 1500 calories a day. Obviously bigger guys or more. Now, why is a bigger guy burning more calories at rest? He's training his muscles a bit more. So in his specific case, he's getting bigger muscles. The more the muscle size increases, the more mitochondria get laid down in the muscle cells. But also, if you aren't training for size, if you aren't training to grow your muscles, and you're doing the types of training that make your muscles stronger and more flexible, which for me is more appropriate for humans, because you don't want to be big and slow. We want to be fast and mobile. Those current muscle cells that are there already, they will also increase and they will grow new mitochondria. And that's where you increase your resting metabolic rate. You've frozen, Celine. I'm not sure if everyone else can still see me. I'm not sure what's happening here, or if I should keep talking or not. So I'll wait for a second.
I can see and hear you. I think it's
hi. So it's that internet in that darn hotel.
Right, that's the host now.
Yeah. I mean, ours is average, but it's been behaving today. I think maybe there might be a lot of people on the hotel's internet where she is. Let's wait a second and see if she comes back. She must come back. I don't know what to do with you guys. Oh, there we go. I see a message that she might be coming back.
Don't worry about me leaving. Just keep going.
There you go. Oh, there we go. Good morning. So it's that when you use a muscle cell more regularly and it needs to give it more output, your body can actually build new little mitochondria. And that mitochondrial increase actually increases your ability to burn calories while you sleep. Because those cells need more energy just to survive. Okay. But you have to maintain the life of those mitochondria, because if they aren't used, they will fade away. So imagine each little cell's got like 5 little mitochondria. Then all of a sudden you start doing exercises at your desk because you can't go to the gym. It's raining outside. You don't want to go for a run. So you just start doing a few little things. Whereas maybe before you were a bit demotivated, you weren't doing anything. So then maybe a bit of pain crept in. Then your metabolic rate could actually lower. Then you start to accumulate or hold on to a bit more fat. So if we're talking about fat burning and calorie consumption through resting metabolic rate, just by using exercise or muscles every day that you may not have used because you were at the desk for 12 hours and you couldn't, you're going to increase your resting metabolic rate, okay? Whether it's a big exercise or a small exercise, it doesn't matter. What happens is your brain starts to communicate with that muscle more, because you start asking it to do more frequent movement, okay? So here, we're not talking about posture. Here, it's all about the neural pathways, the neuromuscular pathways. And I've got another nice metaphor here. If you look at an A road in the UK, it's sort of a medium-sized road. There's a bit of traffic there. Even when it's traffic jammy, there's only a few cars coming through every minute or so. That's kind of a neural pathway where it's sort of mediocre usage. So the muscle cell and the muscle area aren't really communicating heavily with the brain. It's kind of sleepy, but you want to increase the messaging. You want to increase the strength of the pathway to the brain. So by using that muscle frequently, the neural pathways start to strengthen. There's a thing called a myelin sheath, which is this thing that wraps over your nerve, which increases the electricity speed of the nerve message, which can strengthen and strengthen and strengthen. Ultimately, when you use those muscles more frequently, doesn't matter what you're doing, but that nervous pathway gets stronger and stronger and stronger and becomes more of a motorway, more of an M road. Now you've got these constant millions of cars and messages going backwards and forwards. And that's why frequency is so important. So don't do something that's so much you can't maintain it. Don't do something you can't do every day. Pick something that's within your threshold, whether it's physical or even a mental threshold. So don't expect yourself to do this massive daily program. Just start with honesty and tell yourself, agree with yourself what you can do every day. whether it's an exercise an hour, one exercise an hour, or even an exercise a day, and then build on that in order to build up the level of frequency to try and increase the neuromuscular pathways and then the mitochondria. Yes.
Darryl, that's great. Like, I mean, it perfectly aligns with a lot of my well-being philosophies around keeping it pleasurable and enjoyable.
Yeah.
And
100%.
you know, Darryl, you've done that for me. I mean, I can't recommend highly enough. I think everyone, if you're entirely interested in knowing how your body is, just arrange a one-on-one with Darryl. He'll look at you through Zoom. I can't believe what this guy can tell. And he'll tell you immediately, left this, right that, do this, change, breathe, stretch. I mean, I can only imagine what it must be like if you work with somebody in person. But yeah, I like the reassurance that it's better to go small and be more frequent than do too much.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Does anybody have any particular? Yeah, Jenny.
I was just going to jump in.
Hi.
I'm suffering from Achilles tendonitis at the moment, which is really frustrating because it means I can't do anything classes, which actually would help it because I think a lot of the stuff I'm doing is stretching. But is there anything I can do at my desk to help it?
So, did you say you have Achilles tendonitis on one side?
Yeah, and a really bad knee on the other. But
okay. Here we're starting to build up a picture. So this is what I do virtually with my clients. You have to ask questions and you've got to explore and you've got to investigate. So this is your symptom. Your symptom is Achilles pain. Okay. So now are you favoring that leg slightly because you're trying to protect something else? Then you say, okay, I've got, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I had ACL reconstruction on my right knee.
Okay.
Quite a few years, 9 years ago now, and it's never been quite right. But the Achilles tendonitis on my left foot has just flared up in the last few weeks. I've always had it there in the background, but it's never been that bad. But it's just flared up.
Yeah. So it to me it seems like you have been avoiding your right side subconsciously and initially to recover from the ACL repair, which is understandable, but important because you need to keep moving. But then what happened was, and I understand the physiotherapy and the processes post-surgery all around the world, they give you some stuff, but they never take you all the way to optimal health. They get you out of pain, they get you healing a bit, and then off you go, you get back to life. And then you go back to the gym and you're trying to do this, you're trying to do that, or you know, whatever you're trying to do. What people haven't done in that process is that you haven't actually started to rebalance the compensations that occurred while avoiding and letting your right leg heal. What happened through that process was that you had to favor your left leg slightly. Plus the fact that how you would favor your left leg slightly is that your right hip would slightly elevate. How that happens is the right side of your lower back contracts harder. So that lifts your pelvis. What you've got then is you've got a hip misalignment. Now, even though your right knee is great and you're ready to go, you've built this movement pattern into your neuroplasticity. It's a negative neuroplastic situation like we spoke about in the beginning, where you are still favoring your left leg. It's now tighter, stronger, and used slightly more. And it doesn't have to be a lot. It can be 0.5% per foot stride. But how many steps are you doing every day? How many days since you had your operation 9 years ago? That's how much stress your left Achilles tendon has dealt with. So it's actually a bit of a hero. You should thank her. But what's happening is 9 years down the line, the stresses are starting to build up. Those nerves that give you the pain sensory, the pain sense, they're starting to become a little bit hypersensitive, inflamed, and it's this repetitive cycle. And the only way you can stop it is to realign your hips through the right stretching and the right strengthening locally, and then retrain your legs to work as symmetrically as possible. And I'll give you an example. I know I can talk forever, but when I was a cricketer and I was really good, the right side of my lat, the wing muscle, was twice the size as the left side. I was very strong in the right arm. And then obviously this thing ended my career. So I studied. And the last few years, my goal has been to become as symmetrically strong in my arms. I've now got myself to the point where I'm actually slightly stronger on my left arm, and my lats have leveled out. It's taken me 20 years. I'm not saying it's going to take you 20 years, because you don't have to find out what to do, but it's about being conscious and three-dimensionally. And that's one of the other things we didn't really discuss today. Your body moves in 3 dimensions. And when it comes to dynamic movement, which is like, that's how you walk around, gait, when you are loading your right leg, when you are loading your left leg, what's your knee doing in 3 dimensions? What's your hip doing in 3 dimensions? Are they doing the right kind of things? Are they the same? If they aren't moving symmetrically, you aren't going to improve symmetry. You're going to keep reloading or overloading the left side, keeping your Achilles tendon under strain. So, little things like single leg squats and that kind of stuff, they are good, but not if you haven't realigned your hips. And then the aim then is to take away that barrier to self-healing, which is your current situation, which I've just described, in order for that Achilles tendon to start to gradually heal. While you're strengthening your other leg, maintaining your left leg strength without overstressing your Achilles again. And it's, it sounds complicated, but it's just becoming aware of it. And that's the first step, to become aware of what might have happened, and then to start discovering what you need to do from there onwards. But it can be done. It definitely can be done. I work with it every day. Obviously, you're welcome to send more questions if and when you have questions.
And Darryl, I was just thinking, a souffle is complicated to me.
Yes.
But
Okay.
a chef who figures out how the recipe works and tells me step 1, step 2, this with the eggs, this temperature, it's not difficult anymore. And that's why I'm 100%. A believer in investing is complicated. So I speak to investors. Well-being, nutrition is complicated. So you're chatting to me, and it's get the recipe from somebody who's figured it out, for sure.
100%. And they've made all the flops, but now they know how to not flop. So here's the recipe that works.
You would think we had rehearsed this. We have not rehearsed this.
Not at all. It just flows like the human body.
Souffle won't flop.
Exactly. There's my new metaphor. I'm going to write that down. Souffle. You would come up with a French dessert, hey, Celine?
Yes, I hadn't intended that. Yeah.
Anything else?
Any burning questions from those of you that are here? If not, I'm going to ask Darryl to share one last pearl of wisdom. If there was one thing that you would leave us with, besides all the beautiful pearls that you've already shared.
Let me think, because I've actually covered quite a bit of my stuff. So I think the main thing, actually, and this kind of summarizes all of this technical stuff, but if you had to take a step back, it is, if you look at holistic health and eating well, and obviously know your nutrition like a superstar, thinking good thoughts, having the right kind of lifestyle, etc. People exercise lots of the time these days to either get really, really strong or to lose weight and get leaner. Obviously, we do have back pain, exercise, etc. But what people are being taught by gyms and other things, I don't want to throw under the bus, but it's all about trying to get as much results as you can. That's actually quite an imbalanced and non-holistic approach. I think the main thing is that when you approach exercise, it should be completely to do with your health and improving how your body functions, trying to reduce stresses, trying to improve balance, trying to improve flow. Movement helps your lymphatic system drain. It keeps your muscles and your joints hydrated and full of nutrients. And, it's like you've decided to now have salad because you had too many pies and it was making you overweight. Now you've decided to have salad. That's a holistic way to eat. You still get fed, and in fact, you become healthier. But the pie is a stress. The salad's less of a stress. So when you're exercising, try to choose your exercises and try to approach how you exercise with your body with a more holistic, healthy, gentle approach. Because if anything is not sustainable for the rest of your life, I don't believe you should do it at all. There's a good point to finish with.
Yeah. Amen, brother.
Yeah, exactly.
So as a recap, like we did I think for my
Arm
own mind, we did
circles.
arms to the side, going forward, going back.
Forward,
Yeah,
backwards,
Fab, that's right.
elbow curls. Yeah, elbow curls.
And then we did
Overhead,
the overhead. That one hurts me. I've got to work
extension.
on that one. Yeah.
Okay, we need to talk about that. So then you would do your sitting chair twist first to mobilize these thoracic joints before trying to extend them because
Okay.
of how much you like your laptop. Chair twist. We did pelvic
and
tilts.
Pelvic tilts, and we did the foot on your knee. I love that one.
Yeah, gluteal contraction.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm.
So those are what, 8 or 9 exercises that you could pick one, remember not all 8 or 9, and commit to, okay, I'm going to do that maybe
100%.
in the morning as I get to my desk and as I leave my desk. And that's all you do, 1 twice a day.
100%. It's a start. It's definitely a start. And you'll be better that day than you were the day before when you didn't do it. And as long as you're taking those little steps, you move in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Darryl. How do we find out more, connect with you? Is it humansymmetry.coza?
Human Symmetry. So no, it's not a website, it's Facebook. So Human Symmetry.
I'll put that in the
capital
chat.
C, capital T. Yeah. Human Symmetry Cape Town, but I've just got CT. And I've got a lot of posts up there. And if you ever have any questions, come on and ask. And I'm really, really happy to answer questions, because if real people ask me good, pertinent questions, it actually helps me, because now I know what people want me to post about, which helps me post. And that's how I thrive and drive my business, is through my posts and my information sharing.
And I know that Darryl doesn't like to self-promote at all, but I could not believe the value I got from, I mean, we did one session, and then by the second one, I had a whole basket full of ideas. And I mean, now, as you know, like I'm committing to seeing Darryl 2 or 3 times a month. It's just, I can't believe what I'm experiencing, the improvement of my range and motion. Yeah, so even if you just invest in a session or 2. Yeah, so thank you, Darryl.
I couldn't find you.
It's a pleasure.
Darryl, have I spelled it right?
You're trying to find me?
Human Symmetry.
So HUMAN.
Oh, I spelled it with 2 M's.
Sorry, SYMM. It's METRY. It is 2 M's. Human Symmetry. That's the one.
It's 1 M in human and 2 M's in symmetry.
Human Symmetry Cape Town.
Got it. Great.
Yeah, it's got the little yellow infinity sign as the logo. That's me. Say hi, send me messages, ask your questions, and if I possibly can help you, I'm very happy to.
Thank you, Darryl. And thank you to those of you that were here and those of you that are watching the recording. Yeah. How would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 and on how you feel about your fitness at your desk now? Of course, I'm really hoping it's gone up. Fabrice has gone from an 8 to a 9. But if it hasn't, and maybe we freaked you out, so you've gone from like a 5 to a 2 because you realize how little you do. Barbara, wonderful. At an 8. Russell, thank you. Michael opened up another new world. I love that. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But even if you feel a little bit worse, it's probably only because you become more aware of your position and how you are in space. And that's a good step, because now you can go and take the steps to try and improve that.
Indeed.
You don't have to accept second bests sitting at the desk.
No, this is not a dress rehearsal. We have one life. Let's make it really as pain-free and energizing as possible, so we can throw other people's grandchildren in the air 100%. At the age of 100.
Great grandchildren.
Yes. Thank you so much, everyone. And I look forward to seeing you next month. How do you feel about the topic of burnout and just general energy management? And talking, okay. Because I'm feeling like a lot of us are tired. I'm not, and even I am. So, all right, I'll give that some thought. Good stuff. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks for listening.
Have a nice evening.